this is Dave Bazar and Mike Fenn, and we are here to talk to you about the December position report that came out this morning. Mike, why don't you just fire off with the numbers?
So this is the fifth report of the year. I'd say I think there's good, I think there's negative, and I think it's kind of jumbled up for kind of a mixed bag, really.
Okay.
I'd like to start with the good, and that was the sales for the month. So we sold about 247 million pounds as an industry. That's the best sales month that we've had for the entire crop year, primarily carried by those export markets. And so it just, I think that's much better than expectations.
And when you say that, you don't, does the report break down export to domestic, or you just?
Yeah.
Okay.
It does.
So
So
as far as commitments.
Yeah, it'll give you your domestic commitments. It'll give you
Okay.
your export commitments for the month.
Okay.
So again, much better, probably 70 million pounds better than people had expected. So solid. I think that translates to a better than expected sold position. So the industry is, assuming a 2.8 billion pound crop, we're about 55% sold.
Okay, and where does that fit compared to last year?
We're about 7% behind last year. Again, I think it was going to be anticipated. It was going to be almost 10% behind last year. So I think those are two positives. I think another one that we're honing in closer on is those crop receipts.
Yep.
So we're currently about 7.5% behind where we were this time last year. Kind of looking back, your 7-year average receipts between January and July is about 4% of the crop. So 4% of the crop is received Jan through July. So if that's the case, you're talking just under a 2.8 billion pound crop. I think we could go into a little bit finer detail as to why we think we're down 7%. I know people were bringing up good points about, it rained for a decent portion of December, which really kind of shut down operations.
From the hullers picking up out of stockpiles.
Right. So that kind of slowed down receipts. I mean, our receipts for the month were down 20%, and primarily driven off of the rain event. Not so much a bin issue for us. We've had plenty of bins throughout this, but I think other people probably had bin constraints that probably slowed it down as well. So I don't know. There's a lot of reasons why you could see it.
I could see the bin thing being quite a bit, because hullers had to get slowed down, and I know that was probably much more severe than last year.
Oh yeah.
Now I took a look at last year's receipts and just divided them roughly by what we ended up, and then I applied that math to this year's receipts, and it still comes out below the 2.9 number. It's 2,870,000,000.
Yeah.
I know we had all sort of started to think that this crop was definitely above 2.9, but these numbers seem to support no. The estimate is probably still a good number.
Right.
Okay.
So, and I think that's another. It may not matter as much, but I think it does.
Sure does.
I think sentiment wise, hey, look, you're not 2.95 to 3, which would kind of been priced in. I think. So you still kind of have an argument that you're kind of 2.8, 2.85, maybe 2.9, something like that.
Okay, so let's repeat those positive again.
Yep.
Since we're about that, you have way better sales for the previous month, which usually translates into shipments down the road. It also shows you people want and need almonds.
Yep.
You had crop receipts that are a little bit, that are now starting to lag back closer to the estimate,
and a better sold position than anticipated.
Okay.
So I think those things are all solid.
Okay.
Nothing to argue
now
about.
we got to go to the rest of the story.
And I think that's just a continuation of what we've been talking about for a very long time, and that's logistics.
And so our total shipments for the month are?
We're down almost 27%.
Yeah.
So we shipped 189 million pounds. The domestic market was up almost 6%, and the export markets were down 36.5%. Really biting in. And your big 5 markets: India, China, Middle East, U.S. domestic market. I've left one out here, Europe. They all were. They all suffered on shipments.
Yeah, and I know for several of these reports, we've been kind of wondering, why isn't the domestic market showing up a little better?
Yeah.
And I think I guess I would add that to the positive train we were trying to build here, is that domestic market is showing that, hey, your real problem is the logistics on exports, right?
Yeah.
So it is showing up. It is starting to show what it can do.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good point. So
yeah. And
But
so now we're down on shipments. What does that really mean? I think it means that, and you're kind of less sold than you were this time last year. So I think it means that people need to buy. I think it means that almonds are still not where they need to be for people to consume them. So I think that keeps the global pipeline relatively thin, but again, kind of puts a little bit of pressure back here in California because you're still dealing with bin issues, warehousing issues. Sales are rolling from one month to the next. You're not, maximizing the shipments like you should be. But I think what it does is it keeps buyers in the game, right? I think it keeps demand nearby, and I think it keeps liquidity around.
yeah, there always has to be somebody wanting to buy.
Yeah, and it just depends on how dense that liquidity is, right? How long can it stay here for? How long are buyers really going to stay with it? Or are we going to see a little bit of drawback after this?
Yeah, and we've mentioned this before, is that last year's numbers were very robust on the back end, the last 6 months, which this is the fifth, so we got one more, and then here's where we really performed, right? And so, you're hoping this is a year-round crop, right, that people consume year-round. So there's, I guess, hope that you will solve some of this logistics. Is there any bright spot?
They're at the Port of Oakland, at least, they're talking about building a 25-acre lot to help unload and load containers much faster. Now, whether or not that's actually going to help, I don't know, but it's a solution. It's something moving in the right direction. They're talking about working more hours, more days. So you're headed in the right direction. It's just about, okay, now show the results to me. And you're currently, you haven't done that yet. Yeah. Another thing that we look at is the conversion of, like, let's just say November's commitments or November sales into December shipments. Okay.
So the man bought it this month. You start to see it being shipped the next month.
Or they're just sales that you've been carrying up until the end of November, and then all of a sudden December, what did you ship of all of those sales you've been carrying? So the conversion from November to December was the lowest we've had this year, 25%. So if we do that again in January, we only convert 25% of the 811 million pounds of commitments we have. You should ship over 200 million pounds. So that should mean that you should be able to beat January. Okay. Last year, I think in January, we shipped 194 million.
Okay.
So if things work out, and that's kind of worst case scenario, according to our track record so far this year, you should have a record to break this streak of kind of lackluster shipments.
Yeah, and I know a lot of us hope that at some point, and it'll require this logistics to open up, but you have, again, this built up, there's a goods stacked here that are sold, waiting to be shipped.
Right.
So at some point, you're going to hope to see, oh, wow, here it goes.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you get a nice spark and a 20% up or something for a month.
You're going to need it.
Okay, Mike, we're running a little long, so do you have anything more to add?
No, I think that about covers it.
Okay, so that's our analysis of the December position report. Thank you.